The sky burned crimson with the glow of alien suns as the first shrieks echoed across the valley. The monsters had come again. They moved like a tide of living nightmares. Fangs glistening, claws tearing through anything in their path. Even the bravest soldiers of Varelia had fallen back in terror as the beasts surged forward, relentless and hungry. All except one man. Ethan stood alone on the ridge, his battered combat armor reflecting the fading light. His rifle hung at his side, barrel smoking. Behind him, half collapsed inside a broken transport vehicle, two small alien children clung to each other, terrified, wide-eyed, helpless. Their mother was nowhere in sight, and 300 monsters separated him from the only safe route out of this cursed valley. Hashtag, 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 hashtag the desperate mother. Miles away, Lariah sprinted through the undergrowth, her long silver hair streaming behind her like a comet's tail. Her lungs burned as she pushed herself beyond exhaustion, legs trembling from hours of running. She had left her twins hidden under the care of passing soldiers, thinking it was the safest choice when the monsters struck their convoy. But then she heard the scouts shouting, "Asterisk, the beasts have cut off the road. The human stayed behind. He's covering the children. Asterisk." The word sent ice through her veins. A human. The Varelian people often whispered about the off-worlders, strange, fragile creatures of flesh and bone who somehow kept surviving wars that should have wiped them out centuries ago. Lariah had met a few in passing, but she never trusted easily. And yet, this one hadn't run. He hadn't abandoned her children. He was fighting for them. Hashtag, 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 hashtag the battle. The first wave hit Ethan like a storm. Snarling, six-legged beasts leapt from the rocks, claws slashing. He fired in controlled bursts, bullets ripping through fur and hide. His arm bled from a deep gash, but he didn't slow. Every shot was placed with precision. Every swing of his combat knife was fueled by stubborn, unyielding rage. He wasn't here for glory. He wasn't here for medals or pay. He was here because two children were crying behind him, and he had promised them he wouldn't let the monsters through. A promise was everything to him. The ground soon became slick with black monster blood, bodies piled high, forming grotesque walls around his position. He knew he couldn't hold forever. His ammo was running low, and the beasts weren't stopping. One lunged straight at his throat. He caught it midair, drove his knife into its skull, and kicked the corpse aside. His armor bore deep scratches. His arms shook from exhaustion, and still he fought on. Behind him, the twins whimpered softly, clutching each other tighter. They were too young to understand war, too innocent to know the price being paid for their lives. But one day they would. Hashtag, 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 hashtag the arrival. By the time Lariah reached the ridge, the sun had nearly set. What she saw made her stop dead in her tracks. Dozens, no, hundreds, of monster corpses lay scattered like broken dolls. Smoke rose from spent weapons. The air stank of blood and gunpowder. And there, in the middle of it all, stood the human. His armor was in tatters. His helmet was gone, revealing a battered, bloodied face streaked with sweat. His left arm hung limp, clearly broken, but his eyes still burned with the same fire as when the battle began. At his feet, the last monster twitched once before falling still. He had done it. 300 monsters. Alone. For her children. Lariah's heart twisted. She barely registered the twins rushing into her arms, sobbing into her chest. Her gaze stayed locked on the man who had saved them, even as he finally collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. She crossed the blood-soaked ground toward him. Hashtag, 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 hashtag worth every scar. He looked up when she approached. For a moment, neither spoke. Lariah had seen warriors before, heroes of her people, decorated generals, champions of countless battles. But she had never seen someone fight like this. Not for duty, not for honor, for two children who weren't even his. She knelt before him, her voice soft but steady. "You saved them." He shrugged, wincing from emotion. Couldn't let him get eaten. There was no arrogance in his tone, no demand for gratitude, just quiet exhaustion. Lariah's hands trembled as she reached out, touching his shoulder lightly. His armor was cold and sticky with blood, some his, most not. "You bled for them," she whispered. He gave a small, lopsided smile. "Kids deserve better than this world sometimes." Her throat tightened. She didn't know this man, didn't even know his name. But she knew one thing. Her children were alive because of him, and that made him more precious than any warrior her people had ever praised. Hashtag, 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 hashtag the reward. That night, under the dim light of their makeshift camp, Lariah tended his wounds. He tried to protest, but she silenced it with a look that brokered no argument. "You fought until there was nothing left in you," she said softly as she wrapped his arm. "This is the least I can do." The twins sat close by, staring at him with wide, adoring eyes. They had stopped crying hours ago. Now, they simply watched the human, like he was some kind of legend come to life. Lariah felt the same. As she worked, she caught herself glancing at him more than once, at the scars crisscrossing his arms, at the tired set of his jaw. Every mark told a story, and tonight he had added 300 more reasons to be remembered. When she finally finished, she sat back, meeting his eyes. "I have nothing to give you," she admitted softly. "No gold, no titles. Nothing worthy of what you've done." He gave a faint grin. Wasn't expecting anything. But she shook her head. "No, you deserve something." She looked at her children, sleeping peacefully now for the first time in days. Then back at him, her voice lowered. "My people believe the greatest reward we can give is trust. Family, a place where you'll always belong." She took his scarred hand gently in hers. "If you want it, you'll always have that with us." Hashtag, 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 hashtag a new beginning. Ethan stared at her for a long moment. He had fought in wars across half the galaxy, saved people who forgot his name the moment the danger passed. But this was different. The warmth in her eyes told him this wasn't just gratitude. It was a promise. And for the first time in years, he felt something he thought he'd lost long ago. Hope. He gave a slow nod. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think I like that." Hashtag, 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 hashtag epilogue. Weeks later, the valley had healed. The road was safe again. Life slowly returned to normal. But for Ethan, nothing was the same. The twins followed him everywhere, laughing, chattering, demanding to hear the story of how he slayed 300 monsters, at least once a day. Lariah would roll her eyes but smile softly every time. The scars on his body would never fade completely. But when he looked at the children racing through the fields, when he saw Lariah watching them with that quiet, grateful smile, he knew every mark was worth it. Because for the first time in a long, brutal life, he wasn't just surviving. He was home,